Hi everyone, I absolutely love all the ocean themed products in Spellbinder's June clubs. And how about the die of the month? Dancin Octopus and Friends just makes my heart go pitter patter. It is so sweet. I love interactive cards and I really love them when they're easy to make. So let's get started with the octopus card. To create the ocean background, I'll be using one of the glimmer plates and dies from the Glimmer of the Month, Sending Waves. I'm working on Bristol Smooth cardstock. Right now it is wider than the width that I need, but I'll be cutting it down later. Sometimes I do things a little bit backwards, and I've already used the die to die cut the wave, but really I should have foiled first and then die cut it. That would have been easier. I'm starting off by randomly applying Distress Oxide inks to the panel. I'm using a combination of Chipped Sapphire, Evergreen Bough, and Bundled Sage. After I have a nice smooth blend, a fan brush is used to apply some spattering of water. I leave it for a few seconds and then pick up the droplets with paper towel. And of course I had to make things unnecessarily complicated. So now I'm going to have to create a hinge with my foil plate onto the cardstock and then slip in the cobalt blue hot foil in between the two. Low tack tape was used on the side of the panel to hold the plate to the cardstock. I had a little bit of overfoiling but was able to easily remove it by rubbing it with paper towel. The panel was trimmed down to the width of an A2 size top folding card base, 4 1/4 inches. All of the elements that I'll be using, the octopus, sign, seaweed, and starfish, are die cut from Bristol Smooth cardstock. There are 3 die cuts to create the octopus. Working with Distress Oxide inks and a blender brush, color is applied. For the octopus, I'm using a combination of Wilted Violet, Shaded Lilac, and Kitsch Flamingo. This is a fast and easy way to color die cuts. The sign is made up of 4 die cuts, the detail and background for the sign and the post. There are also 2 sentiments which can be used, hey or yay. The die cuts are first given a light coat of color with rusty hinge, and then I go around the edges with walnut stain. The base of the seaweed is colored in with Mermaid Lagoon, and then I finish off with Ice Spruce. There are 2 die cuts for the starfish. The base die cut is colored with Dried Marigold, and the detail one with Ripe Persimmon. The elements with multiple die cuts are put together. For the octopus, only the first layer is adhered to the second one by lining up the head. The third layer, the legs, are the interactive element. This final layer will be added in when the octopus is attached to the card. I'm stamping a sentiment from the card kit and die of the month, What Are You Up To?, on a panel of Bristol Smooth cardstock with Versamark ink and embossing it in white. This panel is A2 size, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches, and will sit behind my wave and form the sky. I'll be using some of the same inks that were used for the elements, a combination of Dried Marigold, Ripe Persimmon, and Ice Spruce. When I'm done, I use a microfiber cloth to buff off the ink on the embossed sentiment. The die for the waves is used to die cut some sheet foam. I first line up my panel and adhere it to the foam, and then trim off the excess. The inked sky panel is adhered to an A2 size card base. The foam-backed panel is adhered on top. The third layer of the octopus is lined up. A dimensional foam dot is placed at the back of the head through the hole on the die cut at the top of the legs. This will allow the second set of legs to freely swing. After the foam backing is removed, the octopus is attached to the card by the foam dot. I ended up stacking an additional foam dot on top so that the legs would move more smoothly. Before the sign is adhered to the card, I first arrange the seaweed at the bottom of the post. Small foam adhesive squares are placed on the back of the sign and at the bottom of the post. The backing paper is removed and it is adhered to the card. And then the sweet little starfish is slipped in behind some of the seaweed. The card is embellished with confetti, and the confetti is topped up with Nouveau Crystal Drops Morning Dew. Morning Dew dries, it is clear, really making that confetti stand out. Now on to the jellyfish card. Started off by coloring the base die cut with abandoned coral. The tentacles and the body detail are first colored in with dried marigold. At the base of the body detail, I add in a little bit of ripe persimmon. A combination of Mermaid Lagoon and Evergreen Bough are used to color the starfish. One of the dies from the Glimmer of the Month was used to cut heavy cardstock to use as a stencil. Working in bands of color, Mermaid Lagoon, Evergreen Bough, and Faded Jeans is applied to a panel of Bristol Smooth cardstock. Because I'll be adding additional color with the stencil, I don't worry about getting a completely smooth blend. My cardstock stencil has been die cut on both sides, so I have two different profiles to work with. The stencil is also a little bit wider than the panel. I can then shift the stencil a little bit back and forth so that the waves do not have a uniform appearance. I started at the top and I'm just going to work my way down the panel, applying the same inks that were used to create the background. I randomly apply the different colors, Mermaid Lagoon, Evergreen Bough, and the Faded Jeans. The same blender brush is being used for all three colors. When I switch to a color, I'll just give my blender brush a little rub on the paper towel. To add lots of interest, some of the waves are stenciled horizontally and others will be stenciled at a slight angle. Stenciling using the same colors on an inked background creates a subtle and soft effect. Like the previous card, a fan brush is used to spatter the panel with water. I let the water sit for a few seconds and then use paper towel to absorb the droplets. The sign is temporarily put in place so that I can position a sentiment from the card and die of the month. It is stamped with Versamark ink and embossed in white. The sign inked lightly with rusty hinge and the seaweed with ice spruce are attached to the card. To protect my work surface, I slip some cardstock between the card front and the base of the card, and then I'm going to apply a fairly thick layer of glue along the base of the card. Coffee filter is then slipped in to catch any sequins as I apply them to the glue. I'm using bisque opalescent sequins. This is a perfect color for an ocean floor. After I've knocked off the excess, then I can go back and make any final adjustments to fine-tune it. And after I'm done, I'll knock it off one more time onto the coffee filter just to make sure everything is adhered. One of the starfish is tucked underneath one of the sequins and adhered. The second starfish is adhered right on top of the sequins. I really love the sparkle that the confetti adds to the card, and I decided that I wanted to ramp it up for the rest of the card. I'm using my Nouveau Glitter Drops White Blizzard, which dries clear but is extremely sparkly, and I'm going over all of the water drop spatter. I know you're thinking, oh my goodness, how time-consuming, but no. I just place light pressure on the bottle and then dot it onto the panel, and it goes very quickly. And it not only adds additional sparkle to the panel, but it adds some interesting texture. The detail body of the jellyfish has been adhered to the base. I'm using a white jelly roll pen just to add a little bit of dot detail along the scalloped edge of their bodies. Before I adhere the jellyfish, I'm first going to just lay them out on the card until I get a design that I like. When I'm happy with the layout, I can adhere the jellyfish one by one. The body is removed. A small foam square is placed in the circle die cut at the top of the tentacles. And what I discovered with the octopus was that if I double up the foam squares, the legs actually move more freely. So as I'm doing the jellyfish, I'm adding in 2 foam dots, one on top of the other, or rather foam squares. I ran out of the foam dots, and so I had to make do with these. Because I removed the backing paper as I was putting on the foam adhesive, all I have to do now is go back and pop on those cute little jellyfish bodies. And yes, I'm not finished with the sparkle yet. I'm going to go in with a paintbrush using the white blizzard and add it to the detail portion of the jellyfish's bodies. And this card is finished up with some more of the bisque opalescent sequins added around the sentiment. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making these 2 sweet and easy interactive cards. Spellbinder's ocean-themed June clubs has definitely moved to the top of my favorites list. And this small die of the month, Dancin Octopus and Friends, is absolutely adorable. Thank you for stopping by, and as always, I appreciate your visit.